Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 1 of DanMachi, which is the abbreviated title for something I'm going to have a go at. Have it written down here, the full title, since it is the first video coverage of this particular show. I always like to get the full title, even if it's, long and insane. Try to pronounce this correctly. It's Dungeon ni Deai wo Motomeru no wa Machigatteiru Darou ka. Or is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? DanMachi for short. That is definitely the way we're going to be going in these videos. And I really love this particular series, this first episode. The feel of it is very much sort of like, I feel like this is going to pick up the void for Log Horizon 2, which just wrapped, and it's probably going to be a while until that show ever comes back. And sort of the Sword Art Online and that whole aesthetic, the sort of RPG or MMORPG framework is how this first episode really made me feel. It felt like something very much akin to that, only it doesn't seem to be anything along the lines of, people are trapped in it or it's a game environment and that kind of stuff. This is the world they inhabit, and it's completely rife with, the idea of leveling up, and being an adventurer is the main character's, call to sort of his lifestyle, and, there's such things as magic and summoning and all those kinds of RPG aesthetics, and I really like that. I'm an RPG fan, so all of these things speak to me and draw me in from the get-go. We're following around the character of Belle, who is apparently part of the Hestia Familia, and there are these different groups, all different kinds of Familia groups that hail back to gods and goddesses who decided, as we find in the sort of prologue of the episode, have decided to come down from their heavenly fixture and live amongst humanity. And he has a partner, sort of, a goddess. She's only thus far been called goddess. And she's really sort of, crushing on him, and he's oblivious to it. He's basically the only one of his particular familia, whereas a girl that he ends up crushing on in the dungeon that he's gone into to try to, level up and become stronger, she saves his life because apparently, as we find out later in the episode, her group, the Loki familia, were in another level of these dungeons. The entire underground of this city that they inhabit is apparently multi-levels of dungeons, and I guess it gets harder the lower you go or something. And they were battling these minotaurs, and one of them escaped, and, basically Belle came under the attack of this stray minotaur, and Eyes is the character's name. She's sort of the sword princess. That's the local lore, what she's called, or Lady Loki, because she is part of Loki Familia, and she ends up saving his life by, killing this Minotaur. He ends up soaked in blood, and he's all absolutely thunderstruck, love-struck by this girl. He ends up running away, and, basically now he has a whole new outlook on wanting to better himself, become stronger, level up, and all this stuff. And apparently there's this ritual where the goddess, all the statistics and everything that you might see in a menu form in a game are apparently written on his back through some sort of magic or whatever like that, and the goddess manipulates it, and that's how she finds out he's leveled up. She sort of prints a receipt almost, and there's something she's done to him unbeknownst to him that's going to help him level up quicker as long as he has this personal drive to achieve. And she's kind of miffed, being that she is crushing on him, that it took another girl to win his heart, to have him, get this drive within himself. But it's very interesting because, of course, on his way to go back to the dungeon after a little bit of a uncomfortable pairing on their couch between him and the goddess girl, he runs into this other girl named Seer, who's like a hostess of this particular eatery. And in a way, she kind of tricks him by giving him lunch. She hears his, stomach growling, and she hands him whatever she was going to be eating, but she says, you have to promise to come and eat here later for dinner, and it's a promise, I'm going to hold you to it. So he does, and when this happens later on, they start giving him all this food and, overcharging him and stuff. Apparently the whole world is, set up so that when you defeat monsters, you get these magic crystals, which you turn in for a form of money, that kind of thing. And he has only so much, so he's really just incredulous that they're piling on the food at this eatery. And then the entire night gets sort of better, but then worse, because you have the Loki Familia, all of these people who travel around with the Eyes sword goddess woman, coming in to eat, and there's this one character named Bet who is a complete jerk face because he's immediately telling the story of how, essentially Eyes had found this kid after one of the Minotaurs escaped, that whole, background story, and, oh, wasn't he such an idiot, wasn't he a jerk, wasn't he, such a little wimp and everything, and he went away running, and, basically, you have Belle, who was enamored by the fact that, oh, if he eats here, he'll be able to see her more often and stuff. Again, this girl who saved his life, and now he's love-struck over. But this is so heartbreaking to hear this guy making fun of him, and, he doesn't stick around to hear whether or not Eyes agrees with what Bet is saying, and Bet's completely drunk, apparently. That's why he's acting so, derogatory and flamboyant and all this kind of stuff. And even his, members of the Loki Familia group don't like what he's doing, and they end up stringing him up, like hog-tying him to shut him up. But you basically have Belle running out of the restaurant, and both Seer, the hostess, as well as Eyes seem concerned, and Eyes is wondering if that's actually him. She doesn't actually say, was that the boy that I saved or whatever like that, but she is pondering who it was, and we see Belle returns to his goddess partner, and he's all banged up because he spent more time from the frustration of this just being, completely made fun of. Again, he has that drive to better himself, become stronger, because everyone is piling into his head. There's no way this Eyes sword princess woman is going to ever have any interest in you, any reciprocative feelings towards you, unless you're a tougher guy, a harder core warrior. And so he basically spends hours just going after monsters in the dungeon, and he comes back so weak and so torn up, and that's basically where we leave the episode. And so I'm going to be curious to see, because there are a whole host of characters we see in the end credits and such that are probably going to be debuting in the series. And I'm wondering if there's going to be a sort of overarching story, or if it's just going to be episodic, building up upon this, going into the dungeons and trying to better yourself, meeting other characters along the way. But the sole purpose of Belle is to be, trying to hook up with this Eyes woman, or is he going to meet other women in the dungeons and such? And what other familias and, God-related groups will he have to encounter on this journey? It seems very interesting. I really don't know much about it. I'm going to be just flying by the seat of my pants as the series unfolds. But I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 1 of DanMachi. If you've seen it, if this was one that you were looking forward to. I've heard some people say they've been waiting for this particular anime for a little while now. So without any spoilery information, give me some speculations as to what you think is in store, whether you're going to be enjoying it or not. And otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. So I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.